Welcome back everyone, my name is Connor and this is Concrete Character Sheet, where we build characters with the potential for big numbers and big roleplay. I am very deliberately starting off this series with my hand crossbow bard, which I consider to be one of the most powerful yet most well-rounded builds in the game. I've been a fan of the hand crossbow bard for so long that every single character I build must always answer that simple question, okay, but why isn't this just a hand crossbow bard? It's that good. So let's get to it. When it comes to picking race and class, I wish I could say I was making thrilling choices here. But we'll be going bard for basically our whole career on this character, and our race will be variant human. That's right, not even custom lineage can deliver us what we need, which is a feat at level 1, and bonuses to both dexterity and charisma. Because yes, this will be a dexterity bard. We will not be raising our charisma again until level 19? Yeah, it'll be a while, but this is less of an issue than you might think. You'll notice this is a common thread in my builds, where if I can sacrifice an attribute bonus to keep us from multiclassing, I'll do it. Multiclassing is just that weighty, use with caution. As a variant human, we get a feat, and of course we'll take Crossbow Expert, using a hand crossbow which bards conveniently come pre-proficient in. This will allow us to make a second attack from level 1, helping our damage keep up with our martial peers while we remain a full spellcaster. For our background, I suggest going criminal, or better yet, the variant version Spy, as this jack-of-all-trades character who uses a small, handheld ranged weapon could easily pull off a James Bond vibe. Mechanically, we are after proficiency in Thieves' tools, which we can combine with our good dexterity to make us a great addition to a party without a rogue. For stats, I will always assume point buy, though some builds work much better with the higher average stat line from rolling stats. This build will want 16s in dexterity and charisma, and then 14 constitution, 10 wisdom, 8 strength, and 8 intelligence. You'd think we could do a version with 12 constitution, but we'd only get +1 to a stat out of the deal, so I think we're better off with the hit points. This character will have medium armor, so we won't exactly be squishy. With no less than 6 unrestricted skill choices, 2 from backgrounds, 1 from variant human, and 3 from bard, we have a huge skill list to pick from. Stealth seems like a strong choice for a dexterity character, and you should probably take persuasion and or deception, but otherwise it's up to you. Part of what makes this build so ideal is that it can be tailored to almost any party. For my sample build, I'll lean into the rogue replacement idea and take stealth, persuasion, deception, perception, investigation, and acrobatics. Okay, now let's start leveling our character. From levels 1 to 4, we will keep up in damage using Crossbow Expert, and at level 4 we will take another feat, Sharpshooter. This extends our hand crossbow to a respectable 120-foot range. This may sound small compared to the hundreds of feet on a longbow, but the key is 120 feet is about the maximum size of most gaming tables at 1 inch per 5 feet. It'll do just fine. For spells during this period, you're the rare bard who is too serious and too deadly to take Vicious Mockery. Truth is, you don't really need it. You have a far better way to deal direct damage. That leaves cantrips like Light, Mage Hand, Minor Illusion, and Mending for all those arrows left on the ground, as your main cantrip choices. For level 1 spells, Fairy Fire will mix very well with your archery, particularly if your party relies on attack rolls to hit. Pick up Healing Word, you're an archer, you should be healing from range, and if you're feeling sneaky, take Disguise Self. Don't forget to use Sleep for the first few levels, and then ditch it. At level 3, spells like Invisibility, Enhance Ability, or Enlarge Reduce become strong contenders. Fun fact about Enlarge Reduce, you can reduce noted D&D villain doors, or furniture, as well as enlarge the fighter or monk for extra damage or grappling potential. You'll notice that these spells are mostly options that give us clear benefits without using our spell save DC, with Fairy Fire being the prominent exception. Bards have many great spells that require a save, like Suggestion. But my goal is to demonstrate that you can build a versatile and powerful bard spell list while barely using your spell save DC at all. For our subclass, I'm going to suggest going Swords Bard. I know we aren't a melee character, but if you read carefully the Swords Bard's flourishes, they can all be used with a ranged weapon, though the mobile flourish has some oddities to it. Think of it like Gun Kata from that movie Equilibrium, or other ridiculous pistol hijinks in modern movies. Your bard is just a cool cat. Embrace it. You get 10 feet of extra movement speed as a bonus, too, whenever you take the attack action. Though, as a reminder, even though flourishes are good, remember you can and should still inspire your party. Flourishes can, and probably should be, saved until after you critically hit, though these choices get easier after you get the Bardic Inspiration dice back on a short rest at level 5. The Valor Bard also has potential, and this build works perfectly well with Valor. However, the shield proficiency is wasted since you need a free hand to fire your crossbow. The only real difference is this level 14 ability. In short, Valor Bards get a bonus action attack after casting a spell, while Sword Bards get a free d6 flourish once a turn when they attack. It may sound like Valor gets the better deal, but at high levels you spend a lot of time conserving your spell slots, since a Mind Flayer or an Ancient Dragon might always be around the corner. As such, it's rare that you cast every turn to use battle magic, and if you did, when would you have a bonus action free to inspire? On the other hand, a Swords Bard can cast and inspire on one turn, then fire 3 arrows on the second turn, while getting the extra d6 flourish die for free. In total, we'll get a lot more use out of Master's Flourish. At level 5, we get our inspiration dice back on a short rest. This is a big moment, where our peers all get second attack, and we wait another level. Yet because we get the best of both worlds, we're also getting third level spells, with such standouts as Hypnotic Pattern, Leomund's Tiny Hut, Dispel Magic, and Plant Growth. Plant Growth and Tiny Hut are particularly useful as an archer, slowing our enemies without a save, and giving us a place to hide, respectively. Yet at level 6, we get second attack, keeping up with our martial peers. We also get Counter Charm, and I don't want to talk about it. Never mind. But, hey, second attack! Let's run some numbers! This isn't going to be as in-depth number crunching as some of my colleagues on other channels do, just yet at least. But if we enter our bard's archery attacks into a damage calculator, like the one written by LudicSavant, let's see how we're doing. Let's see how we do compared to a warlock with Eldritch Blast, and then against one of the most damaging characters in the game, the Crossbow fighter with archery fighting style. As you can see, our sharpshooter damage is comparable with the warlock's Eldritch Blast plus Hex, and our sharpshooter damage if we use Fairy Fire to get advantage is comparable to the non-advantaged fighter. Yes, the fighter can action surge, we can Blade Flourish, albeit the fighter might also have battle maneuvers, and Fairy Fire costs an action to cast. So, the point here isn't that the Crossbow Bard absolutely outdamages everyone, although if you can land Fairy Fire, you can get a reliable source of advantage that the fighter lacks, but that particularly early on, Crossbow Bard is competitive in damage, and that is what we're here for. We aren't trying to make the most damaging character in the game, we are trying to balance out the downside of the Bard, the only downside really, which is the low damage. Remember that a lore Bard casting Vicious Mockery at level 6 would do something on the order of 2 damage per round. Our Bard can do 15. One of the best things about this build, particularly post Tasha's, is that we can keep increasing the damage from our crossbow while our spellcasting keeps going up simultaneously. At level 1, Crossbow Expert. At level 4, Sharpshooter. At level 6, Second Attack. At level 8, Archery Fighting Style. At level 10, Holy Weapon or similar spell. At level 12, plus 2 Dexterity. At level 14, Master's Flourish. At level 16, plus 2 Dexterity. Is this scaling enough to keep up? We'll see, but the point is that we won't run out of ways to improve our damage. From level 7 to level 9, we'll grab the Fighting Initiate feat for the Archery Fighting Style and continue to gain more spells. This includes Polymorph, one of the best spells in the game even if you don't cast it on your enemies. Though do watch out for those low intelligence creatures. Giant Ape and Giant Eagle are your friend for casting on yourself or other allies, with both creatures having a respectable 8 intellect. Other highlights include Dimension Door and Synaptic Static to make up for the fact that you're not a lore bard who got Fireball at level 6. If your party needs it, grab Teleportation Circle to simplify international travel. Honorable mention goes to Greater Invisibility, which is an incredibly reliable source of advantage for your attacks that doesn't check against your spell save DC the way Fairy Fire does. Plus, at level 9, your Jack of all trades goes up to a respectable +2 to all your other skills. So we get to level 10, where bards get so many great things. D10 Bardic Inspiration, 2 more expertise skills, and of course, our first, and in some campaigns, our only, magical secrets. This is a tough choice, but again, you get so many options to suit your campaign. In the old days, people suggested Haste or Swift Quiver for archery builds. But since Xanathar's, the perhaps lesser-known option has been Holy Weapon, which allows you to use a bonus action to put 2d8 radiant damage per shot on your hand crossbow for a full hour. Reliable damage type, bonus action casting, long duration, a fun AoE option if you cancel it, what's not to like? But if you want to rely on greater invisibility for extra damage instead, you could pick up Find Greater Steed, shoot arrows from Pegasus back, or the incredibly strong pick Counterspell, in part because we have almost no uses for our reaction, plus we get +2 from Jack of all trades to the check, and this lets us make powerful plays with a spell that doesn't prevent us from using our crossbow. Also, the hugely versatile spell Bigby's Hand, with the slight downside that using it takes our beloved bonus action, but we can do a hand action after casting another spell. The obscure but oddly good Transmute Rock, or many other interesting options. For my build, I'll be taking Holy Weapon and Counterspell, but in a group with several characters with Counterspell, or when flying mounts are particularly rare, I would gladly take Holy Weapon and Find Greater Steed. It's a nice divine theme there, which I would then want to plan in my character background in terms of a favorite deity. At level 11, as a caster with only 16 Charisma, the spell Otto's Irresistible Dance might edge out the impressive Mass Suggestion, since Irresistible Dance will always deliver at least one positive effect, either the creature takes the debuff or spends an action to clear it. Also, it dances! Anyway, in some campaigns, Find the Path might break your game in the best possible way. If you can afford it and nobody else can bring it, Hero's Feast is a game changer and great for action economy. Once again, the theme here is options. Even while you're focusing on doing decent damage, you have a huge skill list and the power of a full caster coming online almost in the background. It's level 12, so let's check our damage again. We're going to increase our dexterity to 18, while our fighter and warlock competition have of course gained their 3rd attack and 3rd Eldritch Blast respectively. This damage check is really instructive, because we can see that we are at least in the same ballpark with the Warlock in unmodified damage, with the Warlock concentrating on Hex, while we are not concentrating at all, even if the Archery Fighter is a step ahead. But if we are willing to buff ourselves with greater invisibility, which only lasts a minute but doesn't cost a magical secret, or Holy Weapon, which lasts an hour but the damage is a little lower, albeit far more reliable across armor classes, then we can boost our damage to a point where we surpass the Warlock and reach what an unmodified fighter could do, which helps really bridge the gap between being a combat class and being a spellcaster. And that's the key. All of this cost us 1 or 2 spells. We still have a full spell list of utility spells and 4 expertise skills left in reserve. Things only get more ridiculous from here. We just got 7th level spells like Force Cage, Magnificent Mansion, or Teleport, and at level 14 we have another big level, as we get the level 14 Sword Bard feature Master's Flourish, and our next Bard Magical Secrets. The options here for spell selection are pretty intense, with the clear standout being Simulacrum cast on yourself. Assuming you can afford the time and the rubies, making a double of yourself is in many ways more effective than your average wizard simulacrum, because your double has more HP and AC than many wizards, has so many skill proficiencies, and the ability to spam crossbow attacks just like you while sitting on a reserve of one-use spells. For a second magical secrets choice, there's a strong argument for the spell Contingency, another costly spell, but you can use it to cast greater invisibility in advance, though rules as written, Holy Weapon would not work here. So that way, when you wink or stamp your foot, or do some other obscure action, you could activate greater invisibility, most likely as your object interaction, thereby improving your action economy even further. In high-level play, you'll have more options than your action economy can handle, so the ability to cast a spell without expending resources, or an action, is definitely worth considering. You might also consider Plane Shift, if your party needs it, Heal, Bones of the Earth, or in a wild choice, Magic Jar, because the lower your spell DC, the safer you are against dying, strangely. It's super risky, but certainly deserves consideration. For Master's Flourish, just use it every time you attack. Extra damage and AC from Defensive Flourish, or Pushing from Mobile Flourish every turn has clear benefits. Remember to Inspire, if you can, on the turns where you cast a spell. At level 18, we'll do one last damage check now that we finally have 20 dexterity, when we've just acquired an 8th level spell, Glibness, Mind Blank, Antipathy, Sympathy, are all strong options for your low spell save DC. And a 9th level spell, True Polymorph, to make Pet, Foresight, which has no ability checks at all, or even Prismatic Wall combined with your Mobile Flourish are all appropriately powerful. For me, I'd probably take True Polymorph for sheer coolness, but there's no wrong answer. Then we get our final magical secret, in which case we can take Wish! That's right, folks, our arrow-spamming combat guy also gets Wish. And then a strong second choice, for a game with no clerics especially, would be Mass Heal. By far the strongest heal in the game, one of the few times you can just fully turn a combat around. And now, the damage. In a wacky turn of events, as we get more attack powers like Master's Flourish and raise our dexterity, we can actually surpass the average fighter turn. Sure, fighters will get a 4th attack for the brief time spent at level 20, and they have 2 action surges at this level. But we have a competitive option with just a single 4th or 5th level spell slot for 1 minute or 1 hour respectively. That brings us to the end. I think it's absolutely worth getting Bard 19 and Bard 20 for the +2 Charisma and the extra 6th and 7th level spell slots. Plus, given how fast sword bards run through Inspiration, they could at least get some use out of superior Inspiration, the bard's somewhat lackluster capstone. A note on comparability. Is this a somewhat rosy circumstance for the bard compared to undercounting the fighter's power with precision attacks and action surge? Of course. My point isn't that crossbow bards supplant fighters, just that there's a way to mitigate arguably the only downside of bards, their low damage, and their somewhat squishy nature. Being a ranged crossbow combatant solves both those issues. In this particular build, I didn't make too many spell or skill suggestions, because as long as you're keeping in mind your lower spell save DC, you're going to have so many options to take whatever role your party needs. Substitute Rogue, Polymorpher, Skill Monkey, Face, Budget Wizard, Teleportation Guy, Healer, and even Damage Dealer. There isn't a lot that you can't do as a crossbow swords bard, which is why I started here, because for every build I make I always ask, sure, this is great, but am I getting something better than being a hand crossbow bard? From a role-playing perspective, this character provides the bones to build that hard-to-manage archetype, the Savant. Like a magical James Bond or Han Solo, you're whipping out your little pistol crossbow and making your enemies regret messing with you. This chassis feels to me like a good way to make an overconfident character. They have low intelligence, after all, and someone who thinks they are hot stuff and can do it all. That sense of competency can be hard to build for, but I think we've got it here. I don't think a crossbow swords bard unbalances the game, but it certainly gives arcane trickster rogues a run for their money. Seriously, the crossbow bard with holy weapon or greater invisibility does outdamage sneak attack at level 18 by a small margin. This build is also a good example of single-class focused character building. As much as I adore multiclassing, we didn't so much as take a fighter dip to get the archery fighting style, taking a feat instead, because dipping from your primary class as a caster can have a big impact on the fun, as it affects your spell selection every single level, which feels far more ruinous than foregoing a +1 increase to your spell save DC, a number that, by definition, will only come up about 5% of the time. You can expect a mix of offbeat single-class and weird multi-class builds from me, and I can't wait to deliver. If you like this video, please leave me a like, or tell me what you think of the hand crossbow swords bard in the comments. Is it all it's cracked up to be? What's your build that you measure every build against? If you like these first 2 videos, please consider subscribing. And with the spiel out of the way, thank you for watching, and happy dungeoneering.